It's 100% immersion. It's like the same reason people drink and the same people go out, same reason people go out, same people like cinema. It's immersion. People want to escape from their surroundings, escape from their reality.
You know, gaming and nostalgia kind of come hand in hand with me. I think it was just last year, I think it was, or it could even been this year. I saw an advertisement on television. It was an ad for Nintendo, and you know, and they had all these kind of English celebrities talking about the anniversary of Super Mario. I think it was 20 years, and they were all, you know, humming the theme song to Super Mario, and I was humming along. I couldn't help but hum along with them.
Okay, so I started playing video games when I was about 6. I remember going over to my friend's house, and he had a Sega Genesis, and all we used to play on that was Sonic the Hedgehog, or Sonic and Knuckles. He used to be Sonic, I used to be Knuckles, and it was just like, that was 2-player gameplay then. You each go on like different levels and run across the screen at the same time, and that was, you know, that was back in 1996. That was, you know, that was 16-bit era. That was really cool actually back then, and it's, you know, a memory that always stuck with me. And then after that, when I got my PlayStation, I remember some of the games I used to have on that. One of the games that really hits me is Crash Bandicoot. I remember playing that with other friends as well. You know, we take turns on the levels and stuff like that, and even the third one had the option of 2-player, and it was brilliant. Even the theme song, like, when that plays, it's just, you instantly think back to jumping on cardboard boxes and the Uga Uga mask, which used to follow you around and spin around your head and then knock out all the other bad guys that came towards you. And it was really cool to play that, and it was you know, memories that always stuck with me.
Well, I saw Scott Pilgrim the other day, and every single thing about that film reminded me of video games. I mean, say if you hear like do you know the ring, the Sonic the Hedgehog ring sound? It's a little chime, and every single time I hear it, and I mean, sometimes people have it on their ringtones or anything, and you hear it, it's instantly straight back to summer as a kid on the Mega Drive with my brother, one of us being Tails and one of us being Sonic. And I mean, it's just straight away back to that moment. I mean, but video games can do that an awful lot, a lot more than films and stuff, I think, as well. It's like music, even music in video games. When you hear it again, you're completely taken back to the game and what you were doing at the time and stuff. I don't know which Sonic, could be either Sonic 2 or Sonic and Knuckles, but definitely the Sonic games. I mean, I played those games to death. Like, I literally mean to death. Like, people that come over and we just played the whole with you.
What sucks me in about a game is a few factors. Would be gameplay, and if it's replayable for me, because I like to come back to a game and be able to say I can play it again, no problems. A lot of the games now don't have that, where they did a couple of years ago for, say, like the Sega or Nintendo and a few PS1 games. Nowadays you can't really say that anymore. There's a few games, maybe one or two here and there, but not as much games are replayable for me. And storyline's another big factor. I mean, you had the big stories like Final Fantasy, and then there was Dragon Quest. They were all amazing games with great storylines, great backgrounds, incredible character developments, and it kind of draws you into it, whether you like it or not. So it's kind of like, it's really good to be involved in that sort of story, you know, and have an effect on it. That's what attracts me to gaming, really.
Round 1, fight!
For me, a game has to have a really good story. It has to be a really interesting story just to keep me interested if I'm going to play the game for 20 hours or whatnot. But I think you know, I think one of my favorite games was Tomb Raider, because I think it was especially Tomb Raider Legend and Tomb Raider Underworld, which would be the two latest ones to come out for PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3. And I loved them because they had such great stories. Like, it had one story, continue with story over 2 games, but it had such a great story. You know, it was such a personal story. It was a story about, you know, like Lara Croft, like a girl who'd lost her mother, you know, in a plane crash, and her dad had passed away later on, and you know, and Laura was you know, hell bent on and finding her mother, even though like she was told she was dead, but something in Laura, spurred her along into thinking she wasn't dead, she was still alive. And it was just a really fascinating story and a really personal story, because when you get to the end of it and you find out that Laura's mother is alive, well, not really alive, but she's she's an undead, and you see Laura having to pull a gun on her own mother. I mean, that's an incredibly powerful scene. It's it's one of those things. It won't remain in the consciousness of the majority of people, but for Tomb Raider fans, that's a moment in Tomb Raider games that will never leave Tomb Raider fans like myself. I'll always remember that moment. It was such a powerful moment in Tomb Raider history, like.
I think games have gotten more addictive as technology has progressed. I mean, back when you were playing the likes of Super Mario, Zelda, Sonic and everything, they weren't so much addictive because a lot of those games only had 10 levels. So you'd complete them in the space of 3 hours unless you were trying to better yourself or find newer areas or something like that. But I think as games have progressed with more immersive stories and online gameplay that the likes of Call of Duty have, I think that just makes people want to play it more and more and just stick with it for hours on end. I think especially with online play, I think you're trying to better yourself as well as everybody else around the world. You're trying to beat your own scores, you're trying to beat the leaderboards, you're trying to get more weapons, trying to build up yourself to level 50 so that you can get onto a prestige mode, which then builds up to another level 50. It kind of just goes on and on and on, and people just get really immersed in it and can play it for hours. I mean, when I got the new Call of Duty Black Ops, I remember being so immersed into the story that I was playing it until 4 or 5 in the morning and not realising the time, and just seeing the time and being like, oh, crap, I have to turn off this now and go to bed. Or then playing it online, I find I do play for hours on end unless I get really bored, but if I start getting really frustrated at losing, I'll just sort of snap out of it, and I'll have to turn the game off straight away unless I do break the remote or break the disc or something, So I think that's what makes games really addictive, the fact that there's just a lot more to them now than there was back then.